record. Here we go. So yeah, we've started the recording and you have the video available on the YouTube channel afterwards. And if you need the captions, you can click on the CC button on Zoom. And as for every other session you've attended in the past few weeks, there is a code of conduct and community participation guidelines that are applying to this course. So especially for this last community meetup, we want to make sure that people are, committed to being considerate and respectful and kind to each other. And if you have any issues, you can contact Sarah Graciele. All right. Are you? If I haven't forgotten anything, Graciele? Oh, yes, I like the graduation hats.
Yay,
Appropriate
already.
attire. Oh, Precious has just joined. So, hi, Precious. Lovely to have you here. We're just about to start with our first presentation. So God's Will is... Oh, Andrea is coming as well. Great. So, hi, Andre. Nice to have you today. The Pharmapad is in the chat, and we were just about to start listening to God's presentation, if God's is ready.
Okay, so I'll begin my screen.
Great. Are you able to share your slides? If you have them. Great.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Okay. So, my name is Godwill. I'm part of the cohort 3 of the OLS Nebula program. So, a little bit about me. So, I am a global neurosurgery and research enthusiast with a background in data science, and I'm particularly interested in global health as well as research collaboration and health advocacy, as well as the potentials of artificial intelligence and machine learning in these fields. I'm also passionate about improving access to knowledge and evidence-based learning, and I'm currently an undergraduate medical student at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu, Nigeria. And of course, I am currently I'm part of the participants of the cohort 3 National Nebula Open Life Science Program. Okay, so my main experience in this program has been a steep learning curve because I think I got introduced into a lot of concepts that I didn't know about at all. Yeah, so I think that was basically a lot to learn, especially going back to the slides after the sessions. There was just so much to learn, and so it was quite difficult for me to pinpoint out some sessions that I found most valuable because obviously the whole of them were new knowledge to me. So I just decided to just give some sessions that I think I found valuable so that I don't mention all the sessions. So the first was basically with regards to the open data and fair principles. So I think my concept of open data before the program was very, very shallow because I think during the first session I realized what exactly open data means and why it is imperative to actually adhere to the fair principles when you actually want to try to work in the open ecosystem. And then I also found the open tools and resources very, very valuable too. And I think the position that I think was I think completely new to me was the data management plans. I haven't really had a background in regards to what exactly it meant and how to go about managing the plans for data management. And then, yeah, I think the last was the GitHub for collaboration. That one in particular, given that I had a background in data science, I knew exactly how to um, you know, create a GitHub repo and all that. But I think the thing that I took away from that was to create a GitHub repo in such a way that it is completely transparent and adds to the FAIR principles in particular. So I think these were some sessions I found very, very valuable, and particularly delighted that I was actually part of the Nebula OLS program for this cohort. And yeah, what I learned in particular was, as someone who is a research enthusiast and has a background in research, I realized the importance of making research findable, accessible, interoperable, and also reusable. I think we as a human civilization, we don't actually get new experiences if we don't sorry, if you're not open to sharing the knowledge that we actually find, and that's how we've actually grown both technologically and scientifically. So I think that's particularly very important. And also, I also learned about the value of proper research documentation and data management. I think there are a lot of concepts that was explored in some of the sessions that I'm currently using in some of the projects that I am participating in currently. And then also how collaborative platforms like GitHub support teamwork and transparency, as well as the role of open science in improving accessibility and reproducibility in research. So these are, I think, things that I particularly learned. And then my key takeaway. So my biggest takeaway is that open science makes research more collaborative as well as transparent and also impactful. And I think it particularly matters to me on a personal level because it actually does encourage knowledge sharing as well as it basically improves reproducibility and increases accessibility to research resources. And this is something that I think I've had some problems with finding, I'm sorry, having access to, research resources is the fact that, many of them can be within paywalls and, coming from where I come from, so, we don't actually have institutional access to some of these resources. So I think that's something that I think we actually go a very long way. And also it promotes collaboration across disciplines and regions. So, for my future work, like I said, I'm currently working on a research project, and I'm trying my very best to make sure that I basically implement open science principles in my project. So, my next steps are to basically use better research documentation practices, as well as promote collaboration in research projects and share resources and learning materials openly when possible. I think this is something. Okay, I think one of the projects I'm basically working on is the use of machine learning to predict hypertension in from data that we collected in the community health outreach. So I think one of the things I'm going to do is to try to make open the code of my project so that other people can be able to use them and make sure that they build on it, and also apply fair principles in future academic and public health work, and also continue learning tools that support reproducibility and transparent research. So I appreciate being part of this cohort. It was, like I said, a deep learning curve, and I want to thank the Nebula OLS organizers, the mentors and facilitators, as well as my fellow participants and collaborators. And with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Oh, that's a lot of heart. Thank you so much, Godswill. That was really, really interesting. And it's great to hear that this has made you consider sharing your codes and it has hopefully equipped you with ways to do it. Um, has anyone have questions or anything they'd like to share after this presentation? Um, anything that you resonate with, you felt like similar? Um, okay. Then if No one wants to ask questions. I think we can go to our next speaker, Arya.
Hey there.
Hey.
Let me share here. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So, hello everyone. My name is Ariel. I'm from Brazil. I'm officially a bachelor in pharmacy and pharmacology and a total PhD in cellular and molecular biology. And nowadays, I'm a postdoc student at the Center for Research in Cellular Functional Biology and a research institution researching new drugs against tuberculosis in the south of Brazil. To present a little bit about myself, I work mainly in three areas. The first one is I work with 3D cell culture. So instead of culturing cells in a petri dish in a 2D way, I grow them inside a gelatin like in a 3D sphere, which is more similar to what we have in the clinics in real life. Another area that I work if I'm responsible for our biosafety level 3 laboratory. So I kind of work every day in a kind of a spacesuit, working with tuberculosis and during the pandemic with SARS-CoV-2. And the other area that I also work on is in proteomics, which is kind of like genomics or genome, but instead of working with the DNA sequences we have in our body, I work with what are the proteins that are expressed by our genome. And this is kind of my main work. I have those three areas like 3D cell culture, biosafety level 3 pathogens, and proteomics. And I try to have projects in all the intersection of all the three of them. In terms of the Nebula cohort, the one key takeaway that I took from the training and coaching session that I valued the most, it was about I already had the concept of open practices being good for transparency and reproducibility. But there was one concept that I hadn't thought about that I kind of learned more in this cohort, which is that it can also serve as a way to improve a project and make it reach its goal faster. Because like sharing early and openly may invite collaborators who can contribute in expertises in my project that I'm interested in, but maybe don't have the full knowledge and expertise and time to develop it. So I can get it to the goal of the project faster and make a more robust project if I can share with others. And in terms of future work, there are two projects that I had in mind when I began this cohort. One of them because there was a hackathon from Anthropic in a couple of weeks ago. I was able actually to develop much further than I thought it would be possible. But those two projects are the ones that I really want to apply these open science concepts we learned in the last 6 weeks. One is an open source tool that I want to start open source officially that takes a genetic variant and queries a lot of database to try to predict how pathogenic that is. And that is really important in terms of especially South Americans and Africans because most of the genetic databases you have to run against it to find out if it is pathogenic or not is usually based on European and North American data sets. We don't have data sets, robust data sets for African and South American um, descendancy, which is why with the tools that you have, I can try to simulate how pathogenic that is, even if we don't have the database yet. And the other project is actually to improve the logging and the recording of the experimental process we have in the lab, which is a GitHub-based electronic lab notebook that I integrate with a kind of a layer with an AI, so people don't have that friction to register their everyday lab work. So you can have like just you're getting out of the lab, you send a message like record an audio saying, today I did this experiment, it didn't go well. I have this meeting, we decided to do this project, and I filled the form to apply for this grant, and the LLM behind it would try to structure that information and log it in GitHub in a committed and version tracking way that you can interact with it. And maybe in the future, it would be easier for you to share that structured database for what you did in a day-to-day lab and experimental and results to make it easy not only to write new papers, but also share with others in a structured way that others can reproduce it easily, which is kind of the concept that we already have, but most people do not do this day-to-day tedious recording sessions. So I try to make it a little bit easier and use GitHub as a platform to kind of a cloud platform to store it. So no, that's it. And I would like to thank everyone. It was a really fun 6 weeks, and I hope we keep in touch because I will probably want to get your feedbacks on these future projects. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That sounds really, really exciting, the projects you're working on. Yeah, I was talking to an expert in like data management practices recently for an interview, and they were like, if people had better tools to do this and open tools to do this, they would, things could get much easier and much better. So I think like you're definitely filling a need there with both of your projects. Um, Anyone has questions or comments to share?
I was typing a question in the front pad, but I'll just pick it.
Great.
Do you have any specific contributions that you're looking forward to having to your future projects?
Specifically, I would like to find out someone who is excited enough about those two projects to actually take them as their project, because those two projects are not within my lab's expertise and work. So there are side projects that I do it solo. So if I can get it out and eventually find someone who is passionate enough about it to take it to their own, I will give it to them. Because I really want to go further, independently of if it is me doing it or somebody else. So I would like to try to exercise these open concepts to all the ideas that I have that I like. It's fun, but it's not high in my priority list. If I can share with others and try to make it real, it's more important for me than actually having me doing it. So that's the main goal. I think find someone who can get it under their umbrella, work on it full time, and make it their project so I can know that it will be developed further.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? You're getting a lot of very positive feedback in the chat and with the emojis. All right. If no one else has questions, Precious, would you be ready?
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Stage is yours.
Okay. Um, Trying to share my screen here just to see. All right. So my name is Precious Mbube, and generally I am a community manager. And currently, in my day-to-day, I work as a developer relations manager, work building developer communities, and I really want to thank the organizers of this program for everything for this past weeks. It's been amazing, coming here, learning about different things. And then I've really learned a lot, that is going to help me in my work and the things that I do going forward. All right. So, since AI boom in 2023, the work I do have largely changed a little bit. So, my day-to-day, my 9 to 5 is that I work as a developer relations manager in a cloud computing company. And then since AI tool has come out with, AI assistant coding and everything, I've built a product called Mongo Park. I don't know if any of you here know Mongo Park. It's little quite popular where I'm from because kind of is discovered River Niger. I was an explorer who discovered River Niger. So basically, I built a tool that help community managers get data on what's happening in their community. You know, it's a very simple tool. You just upload the charts from your community because WhatsApp lets you export them, and then you get to see data, when the community peak time, when people are having conversations, what they are talking about, the questions that are unanswered, the frequently asked questions, all the things going on in the community, more like getting community data. And then I also run Prompt Africa, where I get to share all the knowledge I have about AI to people. So I organize session, like last week Saturday, I organized session to teach people about creating like AI for their personal work, the 9 to 5, how you can use AI safely and ethically to do your work so that you don't get sacked or don't go expose company data to AI. So my work recently has changed because of, the whole AI thing. But then one of the interesting ways it has changed is with research. So this year, I started doing a lot of things around research. Before this program started, I didn't know much about, preprint, research process. But then during the course of the project, I got one of my work published on SSRN. I think the last two sessions I was asking a lot of questions about SSRN. And then I think it is this work, the smart exam impersonator detector. It was a work I did in my final year, as my final year project in 2021, right? All I did was to bring it back, clean it up a little bit, updated the references, and then publish it in the preprints, right? And my MBA, because I just completed my MBA, and then I have this research work that I did in the blockchain space for crypto communities, the kind of content that helps them scale and then grow adoption. I did a study on that at the beginning of this year. So it's also ready and I'm preparing it also for publication, making it open for people and everybody to be able to see what is going on. And I'm really grateful for this program because it gave me the insights, the ideas on and to understand the reason why my work should be open. It shouldn't just be inside my laptop. It needs to be open out there and people can use it. And then also I'm planning an independent research. In one of the breakout rooms during the program, I talked a lot about token tax, right? And it's something that I really have been researching on, and I'm working on a paper to produce on this, on how, talking to LLMs in local languages, in my local language, which is Igbo, and those that can talk in Yoruba, Hausa, even Pidgin, French Pidgin that they speak in West Africa here, English, Pidgin English, talking to LLMs in those languages, they can produce not so good results, and then also it burns more token to talk to the models in those languages. So I'm producing a paper and then looking at how we can mitigate some of those things and then how we can be able to solve it, especially for those building products from this side of the world. So I think one of my key learnings, the most exciting learnings for me is reproducibility. I don't know if I got that right? But the ability for my work to be reproduced by another researcher who wasn't there in the lab with me, who doesn't know anything about what I'm thinking. They just read my work and they try to reproduce it. It's something that I find really, really interesting. And I love the idea of reproducibility. So after the reproducibility session, I went back and then I took my final year project, the one that you have on SSRN, and I gave it to, I used Google Anti-Gravity. I gave it to Anti-Gravity and I selected Opus 4.5 and I said, hey, read this research work and reproduce the project based on what you understand about this research work. And then he was able to build the same exact system that I had built by hand coding in 2020. Now, I didn't give it any source code. All I gave it was, the requirement, the methodology that I used and everything about my project, the problem I was trying to solve and everything. It was able to produce that and I've been able to make it much better. That same code that I reproduced from my project, I'm also going to put it on GitHub and I'm going to make it open also so that everybody who has access to this work can also access my code base and be able to reproduce, make it better or, prove me wrong, right? So through the OLS program, I've found out that, my work needs to be findable. People need to understand it. They need to verify the results. They need to go through the same process I went through and arrive at the same result. And they should be able to reuse my work to get better in what they are doing. So for my future research, I'm going to really apply all these things that I've learned in my future research. So any research that I'm doing going forward, I'm going to make sure that I apply the principle of open source. I make sure that, I plan. There was also a session on planning, how to plan your work. I think it happened like 3 Tuesdays ago, right? So I love that session a lot. It showed me, okay, the process I need to use, how to plan my methodology, how to plan my research, and then the things I need to do during research, how my analysis, I need to make the tools public. If I'm using AI tools, what prompts do I use in the AI tools? That should also be public if I'm going to make it public. So I need to keep track of every single thing that I use during my research. And after my research, I should make sure that I publish my paper so that people can do peer review. I should, put it in publication so that other people can also work on what I have. So, yeah, that is the end of my presentation. And then I'm really grateful for the program. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for listening.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Love your upcoming project on the cost of the languages. That sounds really important. Anyone wants to ask any questions? You can write them in the chat if you prefer. Andre says congrats with a heart.
Thank you.
I know this is really great stuff. Otherwise, Graciela, what do you prefer? Should we do a recording or should we go with Andre?
Yeah, I was messaging him to say, Andre, what do you think? We were thinking of playing a recording now, just to do a kind of switch. But if you want to go next, you're next. Can he hear us? Andre. Hi.
I'm the next one. I'm so sorry. Am I the next?
Yeah. No. Yeah,
or you don't have to be. We
You don't
can
have
play
to
a
be.
recording because we have a
Yeah.
couple of presentations that are recorded.
Someone recorded that should be presented right now. It should be me. Sorry.
Yeah,
Either way. Sorry.
Yeah, we are just checking if you want to go next, or because we see your name is next on the notes, we don't want it to, like, you're preparing and you want to go next and then play a recording. So we wanted to check with you if you want to go next or if we can play a recording.
I can go next. That's fine. Just give me
Okay.
a second to share it. Search it. Wait. Can everyone see it? Can everyone listen to me fine? Wait, okay, but for some reason I cannot. Well, okay. Hi everyone. I'm Andre. I'm from Brazil, Fortaleza. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the organizers, the contributors, the mentors from this cohort, and everyone that participated in the breakout rooms, and everyone that saw it through the YouTube. It was really nice, these 6 weeks. It was a journey. And so, okay. My name is Andra, as I have said. My research topic is schizophrenia, about the public mental health and autism as well. But I'm pivoting the comp neuroscience, but I should stay searching about schizophrenia itself, but from another view. That's my research as well. So I came to this cohort because I have realized that in the academia itself, where I live, there are many people that don't know how to utilize basic research software. Some because of the age, like 60 and plus, people that are coming back to academia after a long pause, and new researchers that didn't have the time, the masters or the undergrad, to actually learn how to do research. So I was like, okay, how can I help them at least a little? So with the third way that I've learned because of OLS, I structured better with the project management lessons as well. So how can I create a small community that can teach to each other how to utilize research software in research process, specifically in literature reviews. So that's what I've learned here. That's the rocket. And that's the thing. I couldn't in 5 minutes talk about everything that I've learned in here about the 5 principles, the Git and GitHub that I have utilized for my personal projects, but I haven't thought about utilizing this to research writing the papers itself. So that's the structure of the project itself. I'll be using Mist because that's covered here in the OLS as well. And there's much work to do. I have a big Obsidian canvas open over here. That's so much I'm doing, like the methodology, the operations, the stakeholders, the community, the outputs, the communication. It's a lot, but it's doable. And that's what I projected to the project itself. The issues go to the Kanban, that goes to the peers, that goes to the repository, it goes to a GitHub page and deploy itself. And to the future. So I was a qualitative researcher in schizophrenia and psychosis in public mental health. But as a pivot to computational neuroscience, it's a more reproducible area. So I try to think about what kind of research objects I generate and how I can publish them safely and ethically. And start licensing things by the beginning of the project and not by the end. Plus, spreading things. Like yesterday, I was talking with a professor. It's like, Professor, I'll put my presentation in Zenodo. And he was like, what is Zenodo? It's like, okay, I have opportunity here to talk about it and teach something to people around. And thanks, everyone. That's my cat. Oh, okay. That's my cat. Her name is Bolinha. And it was nice to meet you all, and I hope we can continue it working on. This cat is because on the first session, I think it was Sarah put the cat in the end of her presentation as well. Thanks, everyone. It was amazing. Whoopsie, how do I?
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was great. Definitely love the cat. Need more cats in my life. Anyone has questions? Yes. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. Hi. Love the cat. My question is because your work deals with a lot of very sensitive data. It's a very delicate subject, and it might be really challenging to deal with all the consent and all the how to open your data set with all these, delicate stuff.
That's a nice
Yeah.
question. So the project, the OLS itself, won't have sensitive data. It's just the courses itself. But in the research, this is actually, I don't know how to do it yet. I've been thinking how to do it. I thought about, because in Brazil it's different, like internationally you have the housing conventions to do this, but in Brazil you have the SAP CONEP 466 that regulates research with humans. And thought about putting on the tally, but people with schizophrenia, they are vulnerable people. So they cannot assent for themselves. So you need my mom, a dad, someone that can assent to themselves. It's difficult. I don't think I can totally open a project like this, but I think things like code that we utilize to analyze the data could be published. The methodology itself should be compared with others, but the data itself is too sensitive to be opened. I think so.
Yeah, thank you. I was discussing that with my colleagues the other day because we don't often have training on how to develop these consent forms or these ethical paperwork that we need. And the more complicated the situation, the less training we have. So maybe that's something that you can think about in the future on how to train people to deal with these kind of stuff.
I would just extend me a little bit in this question, but be quick. There is a course from Fiocruz. It's a MOOC, but I don't think that's enough for this kind of data. It goes like to general research itself, but when you deal with really, really, really sensitive data from vulnerable people, it's not enough. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Then in that case, I think we're going to go on to the presentations that have been pre-recorded. So if we can maybe do those two next, that would be great. Starting with John Michael.
Please scream if you cannot hear the presentation.
Good day, everyone. My name is John Michael Zendo, and I am excited presenting today as part of the OLS NASA Nebula Cohort Program 3. My presentation is about how I am applying open science principles to my project, BASTAT, a real-time patient communication platform built for African hospitals. Let's get into it. So who am I? Well, I'm John Michael. I am a software developer based in Nigeria with over 3 years of experience building applications. I hold a BEng in computer engineering, and my work sits at the intersection between healthcare and technology. Specifically, how can I use software to solve real problems in African healthcare system? The project I'm working on, past that, it's a platform that helps hospitals communicate patient status clearly and in real time to care teams and to families. I joined the OLS Nebula program as a fellow in cohort 3, and it's been one of the most eye-opening experiences in my journey as a developer. It pushed me to think beyond just building software and to think about how knowledge and tools should be shared. Key takeaways from the program. First things first, one of the sessions that really stuck to me was session 2. That's where Sheun Olufemi he talked about the ethos of open science. Before this program, I thought open science was just mostly about publishing papers, but this session completely reframed that thought of mine. We discussed 4 core ideas that day. The first is knowledge availability. Is the idea that research outputs, data, and methods should be freely accessible to everyone and not locked behind paywalls. And as someone building for African healthcare, this really resonated because information barrier is really a problem that we face here. The second is increased collaboration. Open science removes the silos between institutions and borders. It means people can build on other people's work and learn from it. Third was info sharing, and this includes sharing failures, not just successes. Negative, positives. You see what people are working on and how they're going about it. And the fourth was science society engagement. The idea there was that science should not just be done in labs and journals. It should also be like some sort of conversation between communities that it is meant to serve. Yeah. Then my project past that. How am I applying open science to past that? Now, first off, what's PastStat? PastStat is an app that connects hospitals, care teams, and families through real-time patient status updates. So it is built for African healthcare infrastructure. We have an issue where family members, when there is a loved one that is sick, often have to call the care team in hospitals every time with their mobile phone to know what's going on, or they have to visit. PastStat is meant to solve that problem, to remove the need to disturb care teams, and while at the same time be very well informed about what's going on with your loved one. So my open science contribution, or how I intend to apply open science to this project, is to create an open access case study, which I will deploy on Zenodo. Which I will deploy on Zenodo. So the case study will be freely available, citable, and replicable by anyone. It will be honest and detailed, and it will cover the problems we are trying to solve. Like I earlier mentioned, there's constant focus for family members. It will solve that, the interruption, the miscommunication gaps. It will document who use the system, the hospital admins, doctors, nurses, and families. It will measure what changed. So before and after deployment, in terms of core volume, interruptions, and how the families were informed and how they felt about it. But also, most importantly, it will be honest about the challenges. So the infrastructure gaps, low bandwidth issues, resistance to adopting new tools. So how the people receive the product, the software, how they treated it, and how they felt about using it. Okay, it will be real. There will be no filler data, as I'm referring to the case study. And that's all. Thank you.
Right. For this. If you have any questions or feedback, either put it in the chat or on the pad, and then hopefully they can see it later on. Should we play the other presentation? And then we can end with zero.
Hi everyone, my name's Charlotte Cardy and this is my presentation following the OLS Nebula-3 programme. So a little bit of background about me. I've completed a Master's in Psychology with the University of Derby, which is in the UK. I'm currently a first year PhD student who's studying Psychology and Education with the University of York, also in the UK. I'm currently studying part-time alongside my job, so I'm a full-time primary school teacher in Leicestershire. And my research area is qualitative-based research, which is looking to explore children's perceptions of play throughout childhood. The school that I currently work in has children 6 months to 18 years. So the idea is to interview children about their perceptions of play, the importance of it, both in school and outside of school, and how these kind of change throughout childhood, and explore whether there are any kind of significant changes through periods of change. So things like moving from nursery to reception, reception to Key Stage 1, Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2, or the jump between primary school and secondary school, or secondary school to sixth form. Okay, so I came into this program not really knowing anything about open science. So this I found very interesting, and I have many areas that I want to explore. So obviously I've learned a lot about open science and the FAIR principles. I think that making data available to everybody, so not just scientists and researchers, but to absolutely everybody who's interested, is really important. I think that it can help to advance research and knowledge quickly. And some of the examples that we were given throughout the course, so things like COVID and Ebola and things like that, are showing just how important it is to make our research open, so that we can make decisions quickly and build on data that other people have already generated. And I think that it's important to report all results, whether they're failed results or successful, as that will ensure that if you have made an investigation or you've generated some data and it wasn't successful, other people can learn from your mistakes and maybe not waste time repeating those failed investigations. I also found the software and tools section of the program really interesting. I wasn't aware of many of these things. So again, it's given me a lot to think about to kind of go away and explore these tools and find what works for me, as we're all different and we all kind of gel with with different things. So it's important for us to investigate and experiment with what works best for us and our own research. So my next steps following the program, I want to generate a data management plan, and I want to do this in a very robust way. So I'm going to utilize the DMP tool that we were signposted to make sure that I've got a really robust data management plan in place for all of my research moving forward. I want to ensure that my research is open by design. So I want it to be open from the very beginning, not as kind of an afterthought, so that people know kind of what I'm working on and they can kind of see the progress and follow along. And then I also want to utilize the use of repositories. So this is an area that I wish to explore further and see how I can utilize it for my own research, and also look more into pre-registration. So I'm currently looking to create a scoping review to see what's out there already in regards to my research. And I think pre-registration of that would be quite useful. Thank you.
Great. It's really nice to see someone coming from like a field that is less often represented in, I think, in open science. So it's really interesting for me. Any comments or thoughts? No? Then in this case, Theo, if you want to have the honor of closing the session. Should we message them? Just checking if right. I think if you already have, there's going to be some time at the end for like more general questions or thoughts. So if you want, oh no, here we go. We can see your slides.
Yeah. Hi. Hello,
Hi.
everyone. Very good evening to all of you. And my slides are visible to you?
Yes. Maybe if you want to enter presenting mode, then might be,
Presentation mode. Right. I'll
yeah.
just doing that.
We can see them.
Yeah. Is that done?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Thanks for the confirmation, Elsa. So yeah, I'm going to present my OLS cohort 3 Nebula journey with all of you. So I'm Dr. Ziaul Hassan, and I'm working as an assistant professor at Mansoor University, Department of Life Science, which is in Madhya Pradesh state of India. So I have a background in biochemistry, and I through this program, I want to explore more and more about the open science, the research, and the teaching in which I'm basically more involved in. So this is the about me, what background I had. I had an academic foundation starting from my UG and graduation and post-graduation in biochemistry. And I also completed my PhD in bioscience with a specialization in biochemistry and a strong inclination towards molecular and computational sciences. Then I also had a teaching experience of 2+ years as an assistant professor, mentoring UG and PG student across bioscience discipline. Is my video available or not?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, my video is visible to you or not?
Like your face? Yes, we can see you.
Yeah, face. Yeah, video.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, I had a teaching experience of 2 years as an assistant professor in a university, and I also involved in core research in molecular biology, drug discovery, and nanotechnology. Basically, I'm searching green nanoparticle as a means for drug delivery and their possible applications. So the most valuable learnings, the key takeaways which I had from this Nebula-3 cohort open science sessions is that I came to know about the open science principles, which I had means not very deep knowledge, but I had some just superficial knowledge, I can say. But through this program, I came to know more detail about the principles, the basics, the things, the components, the factors, everything related to open science and how we can use it for our benefit, for our promoting our work, promoting science, basically through embedding transparency and accessibility into every stage of research and education, which I think it's very necessary so that whatever we are doing at our own pace, our own place, is accessible and visible to a broader audience at the globe. So the other thing which is I really appreciate is the fair data practices, because fair data practices is very necessary. Otherwise, if we can't do fair data practices, then it may comes under very scientific dishonesty and all. So ensuring data means we must have to ensure that our data is findable, accessible, and interoperable. And also it should be reusable for reproducibility. So these things should we should follow in our practices. And the open access and preprints. Preprints, I already had some idea about that, but the surety that has given in the last session is really a very informative for me, because usually I didn't prefer to publish my content on preprint, because I thought that publishing in a preprint might result in the loss of the data, or maybe the idea may be stolen something. And also the journal editors won't prefer if the preprint is for available for so long and it didn't get published. So, but I cleared my doubt in the last session of this cohort regarding that, and now I can understand how we can use the preprint to actually preserve our data rather from getting theft, but becoming our data reliable data, which making it more reliable, more accessible, and more authentic. So open access and preprints are really a very good points which should be taken care of. The other thing is that collaborative tools. Collaboration is the soul of this open science. I must say that. So leveraging digital platforms to enable transparent team-based scientific workflow is really a very good initiative to do that. And I'm highly thankful to Saranjeet Kaur. She's taken the session 3 of data management, and through her, I came to know that we can put our data, put our work on open access directly through Zonado. So this is the most valuable learning which I get. So open science and life science, if we talk about, which is the my domain or my project on which I am working. So in life science, if we talk about the open science, so these 3-4 things must be taken care to make it more effective. Open science is transforming how life sciences research is conducted, shared, and applied from lab room or laboratory to the classroom, and include reproducibility, open protocols and share data sets, reduce irreproducibility in biomedical research. The accelerated discovery is also important. Data sharing shortens timeline in drug discovery and translation research, and the student empowerment. Open resource democratize the access to high quality learning material. Open science is what actually is a thing which is our mindset. So it bridges research, education, societal impact, and promoting transparency, collaboration, and a culture of shared knowledge that extend far beyond any single method or tool. So it is not actually a single tool or something, but it's a set of mindset. So it includes research, education, and society, all these three stakeholders, because research must be transparent, reproducible, and openly shared. Then it can be helpful for the society. On the other hand, education is also accessible for everyone. It should be inclusive and student centered, and society must benefit from these impacts, from this collaboration, and it get globally connected. So applying open science, there are four main area where we can where I can apply open science after this no, this session of this ending of this Nebula cohort. That is the preprint and open publication, which I definitely do. Then and publishing my articles, and fair data sets, digital collaboration and tools. Even I also invite my fellow members, even and the organizers, to have collaboration with us, so that using platform that support version control and sharing and peer feedback. Teaching pedagogy, which is currently I'm working in my university. So integrating open science principle directly into the curriculum and assessment, I can do that. The teaching and academic impact. Currently, we have a national education policy in our country, and we have to align our curriculum with that. So, this can only be possible after we can make our curriculum openly accessible to everyone, so that it can get shared with the other stakeholders, other educationalists, and we can have a broader impact for our students. The digital learning and LMS, uh, implementing learning management system to support blended and remote education, then mentoring and research guidance. The future vision which I had is that through we can promote open science culture uh, by embedding open practices across the bioscience department and research group in my university. And then I can also do interdisciplinary collaboration, which includes computational biology and nanotechnology, which is the core domain of my research. Student-driven innovation is also being a thrust area for me in my future projects, which empower my students to learn original research with open tool and data, and the global scientific communication that contributes to international discourse through open science and preprints. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was really interesting. It was nice to hear that some of the presentations, like the one last week, allowed you to have new perspectives on certain things. And for me, I really enjoyed the fact that you included how it's going to change your teaching practice. It's a very important element. Andre says it's amazing to see you, Doctor. So, anyone has questions or feedback? either on the presentation or if or like more generally on the program, anything. This is your last chance to, well, there's a Slack, but anything you want to share. And if not, I think I will hand over to Graciela, who is going to walk you through all the things you need to do to get your certificate and other bits and bobs.
Awesome. Thank you, Elsa. Well, congratulations, everyone. That was amazing. We're really, really happy. Who was on the call yesterday, you mentioned that this is a much rewarding moment for us, and it really is. It makes us realize how useful these things can be. We spent the whole 6 weeks just wondering, is that being useful? And then in the end, you show us that, yeah, I got something from it. So yeah, thank you so much. And so for next steps, if you didn't yet, please create an ORCID profile and deposit your presentations to Zenodo so you have a citable recording of what you did. Please complete the post-cohort feedback survey. We have a link on line 167 on the Fromapad. Let me paste that in the chat as well. We are missing some responses, and this is required for you to get your NASA badge and certificate because it contains the information that we need to issue a certificate for you. What else? That's pretty much it that you need to do. If you presented, you send a recording, you fill out the survey feedback form, and have your Zenodo deposit, then you're good to get a certificate. You should hear from us within 30 days. You will not be eligible for a badge if you didn't attend a coaching session that you signed up for, and you didn't present at the graduation cohort calls or send a recorded presentation, and if you didn't fill out the feedback survey because we couldn't have the information that we need to send you the certificate. And if you have any questions, comments, impressions, anything that you want to tell us, please contact us at the email that you have line 180. You already have that, but just in case, copying that in the chat again. And that's it. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank
Go
you.
enjoy
I have a
Hi,
question,
yes.
please.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I want to appreciate the team for the wonderful training. Yeah. So yeah, when I signed on the NASA the Open Science 101, so as in, can I also take that course as an additional as in to gain additional knowledge, or I won't be allowed to take their course on the NASA website?
Yeah, the NASA trainings are free to take. They cover the same topics that we did here because the training is the same. But I
Okay.
think they do have another one there. So if you want to do that, feel free to
Yeah.
do so. And just a clarification, in some communications that we had, we asked folks to go and create an account in the NASA learning platform. We don't require that anymore. We have other ways to issue a badge, so you don't need to sign up for the NASA learning platform anymore. Okay? All good? Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Bye.